Over the centuries, the figure of Jesus of Nazareth has been shrouded in fascinating and controversial narratives, fueled by religious beliefs and historical assumptions. But what if power interests had a significant impact on all we know about him? Is it possible that traditional doctrines conceal a much more complex and transcendental truth? These questions, while challenging, invite us to rethink the foundations of a story told for millennia. As we explore these questions, shocking revelations emerge. For example, Jesus would not be an only Son of God, as tradition teaches, but one among thousands of sons of the eternal Son, according to some interpretations. If you enjoy content that helps you grow spiritually, don't forget to like this video, subscribe to our channel, and join our community for more inspiration. Let's get started. This concept breaks with the idea of an exclusive divinity, broadening our understanding towards a cosmos governed by countless divine entities that act as creators of entire galaxies. In this sense, Jesus would be a grandson of Father Blue, charged with overseeing our local universe. On the other hand, the founding of the Church, often attributed to him, crumbles under the historical magnifying glass. There is no clear evidence that Jesus established an organized institution. Rather, it arose under the influence of Paul of Tarsus, whose regulations and hierarchies shaped the early communities. These very structures at times seem to reflect more the human prejudices of his time than the universal principles of compassion and love attributed to Jesus. The story of his birth also raises critical reflections. If we were to accept the narrative of a virginal conception without male intervention, genetic laws would suggest that Jesus would have been born as a woman, a contradiction that calls into question dogmatic interpretations. Moreover, the veneration of figures such as Mary was consolidated centuries later, motivated more by theological interests than by verifiable facts. These aspects point to a possible manipulation of the figure of Jesus for purposes of social and political control. Far from a mission of universal redemption, his purpose could have been to sow hope in a desolate world, a message distorted by centuries of reinterpretations. Can we really know the historical Jesus? Perhaps only by freeing ourselves from imposed dogmas can we understand his true legacy, a call to live authentically and connect with the divine from the Spirit, not from institutions. Traditional accounts of Jesus of Nazareth have generated equal parts admiration and skepticism. Some unconventional theories contend that his tale would be closely related to well-considered choices and a sophisticated comprehension of human nature rather than being dictated by miraculous occurrences. For example, episodes such as the famous walk on the waters could be interpreted in a more earthly and logical light. The act, described in the Gospels, is called into question when considering the decisions Jesus previously made in his retreat near Pella, where he decided to avoid, as far as possible, the performance of miracles. The mention of Peter in this account brings a peculiar nuance. According to certain versions, the apostle suffered from somnambulism. During a nocturnal transfer on the Sea of Tiberias, while Jesus remained on dry land, Peter would have walked disoriented through the water in a state of sleep. Like Peter, we experience times when it appears hard to discover greater purpose and uncertainty rules our lives. In those moments, the right understanding and inspiration can be the most powerful tools. This is exactly what The Secret of Jesus' Apparitions offers, a path to clarity and peace through his revelations. This e-book delves into his prophecies and offers a glimpse of what lies ahead. It is available for free in the anchored commentary. Grab it now before editions run out. This event, far from being a divine act, could have been a fantastic interpretation of a human occurrence, amplified by the devotion of his followers. Another fascinating aspect of the Jesus narrative is the mass healing events attributed to him. In Sidon, more than 600 people are said to have come to him for relief. The crowd, attracted by his fame as a healer, gathered outside the house where he was staying. According to witnesses at the time, what occurred was a collective healing that defies modern scientific explanation. However, was it really a miracle or a combination of collective suggestion and the power of faith? These episodes reflect not only Jesus' exceptional abilities to inspire people, but also the possibility that his actions were reinterpreted over time, adjusting to theological and social interests. For example, the Gospels omit or distort numerous events, highlighting some and relegating others to oblivion. This intentional selection of accounts would have served to consolidate the authority of an expanding church, ensuring that the details coincided with the official narrative. Beyond the legends that surround him, Jesus appears to have been a highly compassionate leader who could inspire people and change societies. Through his charisma, he sowed hope in a society marked by inequality and suffering. But decisions about how his legacy was perpetuated reveal both the human impact of his message and the limitations of the institutions that adopted it. Those who saw Jesus' apparitions after his resurrection were strongly affected, but what is most intriguing is how his traits are portrayed in those experiences. According to various accounts, his body seemed to change constantly. At first, he appeared transparent, almost ethereal, and then materialized enough to interact physically. These transformations fascinated and puzzled the witnesses, who tried to understand how a man who had been crucified could stand before them again. One of the most significant episodes occurred on a beach near Sidon, where more than 500 people claimed to have seen him. This massive gathering was described as a time when Jesus not only showed himself, but also interacted, talking and eating with those who had gathered. However, traditional narratives barely mention this event, relegating it to a few lines in the Gospels. The question of his resurrection is not limited to what is narrated in the biblical texts. There is also speculation about how his disciples handled the implications of this event. In those days following his death, some of the closest followers, known as the Table, formed a small escort group that stood by Jesus at crucial moments. This group not only acted as a symbolic protection, but also witnessed transcendental events, such as the Transfiguration on Mount German, where light emanated from his body, leaving everyone in awe. If this text is inspiring you, remember that you can access more revelations and practical guides by downloading the free ebook. Copies are running out. Among the lesser-known accounts is the appearance of two mysterious figures during the Transfiguration, who do not correspond to the traditional Moses and Elijah. This opens questions about the nature of their experience and the identity of these companions, generating theories about spiritual dimensions or even extraterrestrial entities that could have played a role in their mission. The complexity of his message was also reflected in efforts to explain concepts that transcended the understanding of his audience. On several occasions, Jesus used drawings and visual representations to explain the vastness of the universe. One such instance involved the depiction of 7 great spheres, depicting interconnected super-universes and an immobile central core, paradise. This drawing, far from being a simple visual example, showed the magnitude of his knowledge and posited the existence of dimensions that humanity was just beginning to imagine. Through his words and actions, Jesus not only challenged established beliefs, but also opened new perspectives on the connection between the human and the divine, uniting visible and invisible realities into a single narrative of hope and transcendence. The final moments of Jesus of Nazareth were marked by decisions that challenged the expectations of those around him. In Sidon, during one of the gatherings at the house of the Zebedees, the arrival of his mother and brothers marked a moment of tension. As the followers gathered to listen to his teachings, a message reached him. His family was outside, seeking to speak with him. Jesus answered this with a statement that struck an intense chord. "Who is my mother and who are my brothers?" This comment, far from being a statement of indifference, evidenced his intention to transcend earthly relationships in favor of a universal connection with those who shared his spiritual vision. This estrangement also reflected a huge conflict between family expectations and his mission. The mother, Mary, still saw in Jesus the political Messiah the Jews expected, while he insisted that his purpose was not related to leading armies or establishing an earthly kingdom. These differences of vision created a rift that persisted until his last days, fueled by the entrenched beliefs of his environment. Meanwhile, on his way to crucifixion, Jesus continued to confront the religious institutions of the day, whose power was based on dogmas that he openly questioned. The Levites and temple leaders sought to capture him, fearing his growing influence over the crowds. However, his resistance did not lie in direct confrontation, but in the firmness of his words and the coherence of his message, which challenged the established structures. In parallel, the relationship between inexplicable phenomena and human beliefs began to weave a narrative that transcended the visible. Stories such as that of the pillar of light that guided the Hebrew people in the desert, described in the Old Testament, were interpreted by some as interactions with non-human civilizations. These stories, far from disproving the teachings of Jesus, opened the door to reflect on how human understanding of the divine could be influenced by phenomena beyond our comprehension. Jesus, aware of these limitations, encouraged his followers to live in the present. For him, the future was nothing more than an illusion that distracted from the essential, the connection with the now. Looking for clarity and guidance in your life? This book may be just what you need. Download it while units are still available in the first commentary posted. This principle, repeated tirelessly in his teachings, challenged the human obsession with planning and control, inviting a more authentic and fulfilling existence. The three-dimensional images on the shroud of Turin canvas revealed a level of detail so astonishing that it baffled even the most skeptical scientists. This discovery rekindled the interest of many in the figure of Jesus of Nazareth, especially those who had lost confidence in conventional religious narratives. It was this search for truth, detached from institutions, that led to a series of parallel investigations into his life and message, moving away from the crucified Jesus to focus on his humanity and spirituality. Among the most curious stories that emerged was the account of two American pilots who allegedly participated in a military experiment that allowed them to live with Jesus during his public life. According to these accounts, his presence was magnetic, his character truly human, and his message surprisingly simple. The Father does not judge or punish, and all human beings are equal, regardless of gender, social status, or wealth. This vision, radical for his time, clashed with the hierarchical values that prevailed in religious and social structures. Jesus lived an existence marked by closeness and joy, characteristics that contrast with the solemn and suffering image that religions have perpetuated. It is said that much of his life was marked by a warm smile, which broke with the harshness of the world around him. This approach to life further separated him from the institutions that would later attempt to mold his legacy to their own ends. The decision to center Christianity on the figure of the crucified Jesus, rather than on his message of universal love, was a strategy that sought to consolidate a growing organization. At the same time, elements are interwoven that further challenge our historical and spiritual understanding. Paintings and engravings found in various places around the world show humanoid figures with animal heads, which has led to speculation about possible ancient encounters with non-human beings. These figures, revered as gods by past civilizations, fuel theories that connect the development of monotheistic religions with external influences, reinforcing the idea that humanity's great revelations may have been guided by unknown intelligences. Jesus, with his simple but revolutionary message, did not seek to establish a church or promote dogmas, but to inspire people to live in harmony with the present, leaving behind the fear of divine judgment. His life, described by those who claim to have witnessed key moments, reflects a connection with the Blue Father that transcends conventional explanations, offering a hopeful vision for those seeking solace in the face of the mystery of death and the afterlife. Throughout life, signs that seem coincidental often hide a higher purpose, as if something is orchestrating the order behind the apparent chaos. A striking example is the testimony of those who, after losing a loved one, experience encounters with deceased relatives. These apparitions, described as moments of intense connection, not only comfort, but also inspire reflection on the true nature of existence. Don't miss this opportunity to further explore these transformative concepts. The ebook is available to you now, but copies are limited. In one of these stories, a woman claimed to have seen her grandmother in dreams on 2 consecutive nights. In the second dream, the grandmother conveyed a cryptic message to her about an inevitable event that would change her life. Hours later, her young son passed away unexpectedly. These types of experiences, although difficult to rationalize, raise profound questions about the relationship between the visible world and dimensions we barely understand. According to some testimonies, those who have experienced near-death moments describe this process as a peaceful and restful sleep. During a surgical accident, one man reported feeling an overwhelming peace, comparable to a blissful nap, as he watched his physical body being left behind. Such narratives highlight the idea that death is not a feared end, but a transition to something different, possibly to a lighter and fuller form of existence. Research in this area reveals that deceased persons presented in these visions are described as rejuvenated, full of light, and in a state of absolute happiness. This calls into question the traditional perception of life as the only fulfilled state. If these accounts are true, the deceased not only continue to exist, but do so in conditions superior to earthly ones. The idea of death as a process of transformation rather than as an end connects to a central concept: continuous development. After death, it is suggested that individuals go through a period of adaptation in which they release the material and emotional attachments accumulated in life. This first step seems to be crucial to continue to a higher state, where the essence of the person, their memories and learnings, prevail while the physical body disappears. If this message makes you reflect and you feel it connects with you, don't forget to like it, subscribe to the channel, and leave a comment. Also, if you really want to support our work and help us continue to create valuable content, consider giving us a super thanks. Join this amazing community and don't miss anything new. This perspective contrasts radically with the fear-based narratives promoted by religious institutions. According to these beliefs, there are no eternal punishments or divine judgments, but rather a constant evolution towards a higher purpose. It is a reminder that existence, even beyond life, could be an infinite path of learning and transformation.